So a couple weeks ago, I was riding up Highway 1 in the coast of California. Highly recommend it to those of you who could get the opportunity to either drive or ride up the highway. I was going up to visit my father for his 94th birthday up in Oakland, and I decided to ride up the coast because I hadn't been riding that much this year, and so I got on the Harley and went up the coast. Why am I telling you this? I had an experience that it was a little bit profound in terms of, and exciting in terms of employing my own teachings or my own beliefs as a way to become a little more aware of myself. And I want to tell you about it because for me it was sort of amazing. I had an amazing realization on the road. So I'm riding up Highway 1, beautiful. I'm enjoying the sights, and it was a gorgeous day. It's just the Pacific Ocean. We're right along the coast. If you haven't seen it, you can Google Highway 1 and some images, and it's just beautiful from Santa Barbara all the way up to Monterey and Santa Cruz. So I'm riding along there, and I'm starting to have these thoughts about a past conflict I had with an individual. I'm sure none of you can relate to that. That never happens, right? So I'm starting to have these thoughts come in about this, relationship that I had that, let's just put the label, sour or something. It's kind of a little bit of a frustrating relationship, right? Things in the past. And of course, we all have those kinds of thoughts, but I was curious as to why I was having these thoughts in this particular setting, because I was enjoying the scenery, having this really nice day, just riding up the coast. And I started to ask myself, okay, why am I thinking about this right now? Because I wasn't thinking about it before, and I hadn't thought about it in a long time. And so, yeah, I was just kind of, I had to investigate. I wasn't really judging that I was having the thoughts, because I think having those kinds of thoughts is kind of typical, right? But why now when I wasn't earlier? And I realized about 20 minutes before this realization that I was having these thoughts, or asking the question about why I was having these thoughts, I was stopped with a bunch of cars, and we had to stop for road work. There were some mudslides up there on the Highway 1 on the coast, and they were rebuilding this huge area. Lots of tractors, big trucks. I mean, they had us stopped, with, so what they would do is they'd stop you, and then they would let the southbound traffic, come through, because it's one lane. And then they would let the northbound traffic, I was part of the northbound, they'd let the northbound traffic go through, and then the southbound, that situation. So we were stopped. I was about the third person back. There were a couple cars and then me. And it's the middle of the day. And so it was kind of hot out because I wasn't moving, and the bike's running. I turned the bike off, but it was still really warm. I'm wearing black leather, starting to get a little hot, a little uncomfortable. And this is where it gets into, unmet expectations, right? I was expecting to ride up the coast without having to stop. So now I'm stopped. So that's already one unmet expectation. And then they let the southbound traffic go, right? And I thought, oh, they're going to let us go. And we're waiting and we're waiting and we're waiting, 10 minutes, 15 minutes. Then they let the southbound traffic go again. So now, so you imagine that feeling, like we're all waiting. There's like 30 cars now backed up. I mean, it's been 20 minutes. 20 minutes of waiting, just sitting there. And I'm sitting up, I'm looking, people are getting out of their cars. Everybody's got their engines off at this point. They let the southbound traffic go again, second time. So now we're sort of like, hey, what's going on here? So we eventually got to go. It was a big relief, and I got back on the road. But what I realized is that the feelings of being blocked, of being frustrated, of having kind of a raw deal because they let the southbound go twice and we didn't even get to go once in that period. So there was that, I think it was the feeling of not being in control of the situation, feeling like you somehow got a raw deal, because what we should have gotten to go after the southbound traffic went the first time, and that didn't happen. Being uncomfortable. So there were a lot of undesirable feelings, and I think, and this is my theory, I can't prove this, but the reason I was thinking about that past relationship with that person is because it has a lot of the same qualities. This is why I talk about the associative mind and the holographic mind, and I've talked about this in my podcast. Any emotion that you have, or thought or feeling, has a quality to it, right? Has a certain quality. It's not just the subject. It's the quality of the thought, of the feeling. I mean, we could talk about emotions. I'll just use the word feeling. But you can think about thoughts. Do you have the subject of the thought? What is it about? That's the data. But what's the quality of it? What's the emotional quality? What's the emotional texture? That could be another word that might be useful. So what's the quality? Is it prickly? Is it rough? Is it smooth? Is it squishy? You could have fun with that. But the point is that experience waiting on the traffic stop brought back memories that shared the same texture or thought or feeling quality. And I believe that's what was happening there, is my mind body was experiencing a visceral or emotional feeling experience, and then it went back in the Rolodex and it said, what else has happened that has this similar quality? Oh, this, because our minds love to do that. They love to categorize things and organize things by association. That's the root of bias, isn't it? That's the root of racism, for example, or why you might have an experience in one place and you're in another place. It reminds you of the first place, even though it's not the first place, it's completely different, but you still have maybe PTSD or some gradient of that. That's why. What's important for us is to understand that that is what's happening, and to be able to say, okay, I'm having these thoughts because of the associative properties of my mind, the associative process. I understand that, but this past memory that has those feelings, that's not happening right now. There's no reason I need to be entertaining these thoughts. I want to move on. I want to get back to the now. I want to get back to the present experience and not be distracted with those thoughts and the associated feelings, because those feelings are not part of what I value. They're not going to work for me in a useful way, even though they're valid on their own. Let's review. I had an experience that brought up some feelings of a certain quality. That quality was then associated with a past memory, and the memory then comes forward and presents itself to me through that association, and now I'm reviewing this past memory or relationship that shared those qualities. I think that's why I was thinking that. I think that's what was happening. The good news is, in noticing that process and saying, okay, that's what's happened, that's why I'm thinking about this. Once you do that, the whole thing kind of dissolves, because it's like a puzzle and you figure it out and you say, I understand why I'm thinking about this, and that makes sense. So that's pretty much what happened. I hope this makes sense for you, and I hope it's helpful. The goal of this channel is one goal, is to help you do better and be happy. Why? Because I live in a world that's made up of everything except me. So of course I want to help everything that is not me, because that's my world. My world is made up of you, and your world is made up of me. So let's help each other do better and be happier, because then we all benefit. All right, simple. All right, I'm Kalani Das. I hope this has been helpful. Leave your kind and helpful comments below, and of course, like and subscribe and share this channel with a friend that you care about. I'll see you all in a future lesson.